So, hey there, humans. Welcome to the podcast, Humanity and Hashtags, the Tinfoil episodes, a new series we're doing where I chat with Amedeo, where if you don't know, follow him at Joshi everywhere on social media. And we talk about wild conspiracy theories.
I want to go into the Antarctica.
Yeah, you do. All right,
I want to go into the Antarctica, man.
So for context, so if people don't know, I want you to talk about it first. But Antarctica, for whatever reason, there's a bunch of conspiracy theories on if Antarctica is really like a continent or if there's just an ice wall surrounding us called Antarctica. But, you know, because we necessarily can't see unless you're in space and you can't see kind of the Earth and how round it is. A lot of the flat earthers think that we're surrounded by an ice wall, and over the ice wall, there is crazy alien technology. There's extinct animals that, you know, we think are gone, but the government keeps everything there, and it's kind of like this whole civilization. So that's the rabbit hole if you want to go in. You just type in ice wall Antarctica. So when you first saw
the blue
this,
eyes. I saw so much shit. It's like I don't know what should I talk about.
Where do you start, bro? It's a lot with this one.
I started with the Nazis.
You went to the Nazis.
Went straight up there.
You would go right to the Nazis.
Yeah, I went to German school for 13 years. Like, okay, let me question everything that I studied. Let's see what happens.
I love it. Let's hear it. What do you got?
The story is that in the 1930s, Germany sent a couple of people to build a base. Okay, literally, which is true. There was a back and forth, a couple of ships. That one is true. And he called it Neuschwabenland, New Schwab country. Schwaben is like a region of the old, let's say, state of Germany.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And this is pretty much the beginning of it. What gets interesting is that in 1945, 1 month after the end of the war, 2 submarines appeared. You know the whole theory where Mr. Adolf was ended up in Argentina and stuff. Apparently, those 2 submarines went through Antarctica first, stopped there, and then went to Argentina. Okay, and there's also a whole bunch of theories of the fact that the bases that were built, there were a lot of people there, and through a few, let's say, military operations of the United States later, they were destroyed to nuclear warfare. That's pretty much the whole myth. Then I looked also at the actual history of what happened. The nuclear bombs that were sent there by the Americans did not explode on ground because there's a scientific reason on it. The bases were pretty much unpopulated, and the submarines ended up in the end in Argentina, not in Antarctica. So this is like the actual factual history. The myth is that a lot of people were brought through submarines in Antarctica, and that a lot of people are still there, and you don't know what is happening, and the Germans still have a lot of technology. Guess who made the theories? The Americans.
Of course.
You guys are crazy. Why does it always come from you? Like, why do you come up with this stuff?
We're nuts. We're insane. I don't know what our problem is. Because, you know, I think we kind of got a jump start on a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So I think that helped because obviously when we first founded this country and it literally seemed like we started to get to work right away with like taking over.
Oh, yeah.
And
kick out the Brits.
Yeah. Take out the Brits and just take over and just crank it out. What I find fascinating about the ice wall part, well, there's 2 things, right? So number one, the American Treaty, the Antarctica Treaty was signed not just by American, but signed by 56 other countries in the UN. Agreed upon. I put down here in 1959, I think is when it was written up. And I think in 61, it was back and forth on the research, but it was signed in 1961 that we can have bases, every single country in the world can have bases on Antarctica, but no country in particular can take over Antarctica. You can't establish there. Now, for perspective, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, the UN, we've never agreed on anything except this. That to me, as a human being, as a conspiracy theorist, this is the epitome of the tinfoil episodes. You put on your tinfoil hat. That's fucking weird, man. Like they couldn't even. They
can't
could
even
not
agree on genders nowadays. What the hell?
Dude, they can't. We can't agree on genders. We can't agree on the pandemic. We can't even agree on abortion. We can't agree on anything. But you're telling me that Putin, fucking every single world leader since 1959 agreed not to go to Antarctica? That's weird.
Not to conquer it, because it's a big ass. I mean, it's huge. Strategic. It's huge.
It's huge. You know, it's hard to judge because it's all ice, right? But in terms of habitable land,
it's peaceful.
Yeah. So that's weird.
We're literally fighting. There's literally a war going on for a few football fields down there. You know where we discussed it earlier, and they're not fighting over a gigantic continent,
massive
or block of ice. Call it whatever you want.
Yeah. And, I always kind of look at this laterally to okay, so we also went to the moon, right? There was the whole battle to go to the moon. The first.
If you're truly American, you have doubts about that too.
Yes. And that's going to be another topic because that's...
fuck no.
That's fucking... there's a rabbit hole there, bro. But, so there was that big fight, right, to land on the moon. And we did that first, then going to Antarctica. So again, for perspective, that means we decided to leave the planet and go in outer space and land on a rock we have no idea what's going to happen, instead of taking a ship to some ice and doing research there. There's been little to no research on Antarctica, and where the theories get really crazy, we're not going to dive too much into it because there's a lot going on with this, but if anybody wants to look it up, it's Richard E. Byrd. He was the explorer, one of the first explorers. He did the first Antarctica expedition in 1928 to 1930. Here's where I want people to kind of do their own research because it's going to blow your mind. You ready for this, Amedeo?
Go for it.
Did you do any research on this guy, Richard Byrd?
No.
Okay.
No.
So he's the explorer. He's the explorer you can look into. So he died from a heart failure after he came back from Antarctica, and as I'm talking through it because it's fascinating.
It's like the people that die of heart failure when they create the water-based car.
Yeah. Or if they've worked at Boeing and they happen to die around the same time they're hearing it.
I like it.
So this is apparently real footage, if you're watching on YouTube. But So my guy, Richard Byrd, he died in 1957 from a heart failure after he did his expeditions, and he gathered all this research and footage, which we can't find a lot of it now. So that was 1957 he died. Everyone with me? Can you guess when the treaty was signed? 1959. So he did his research, he died, and then they're like, all right, guys.
He presented the research.
And then the UN is like, all right, we need to sign this treaty. No one else goes to Antarctica without our permission. That's weird, bro.
Can you take a ship and go to Antarctica?
You can, but here's the squirrely thing. If you want to take it's only cruise ships, but you can go there. But when you land in Antarctica, there's only a couple bases that you can go to, but they're supervised if you want to leave the bases.
What happens if I take a ship, I go there and just walk?
Oh, you're toast. I'm sure it's no different than if you go from Alaska to Russia. I would imagine there's just boats just fucking hanging out waiting for you.
Yeah, but it's pretty big. I mean, you're telling me that there's a whole bloody perimeter and they know exactly.
All I know
once you're there by foot, can they find you?
It's a good question.
Size.
It's a good question. All I know
you're
is
probably gonna be dead in 20 minutes anyway, because between the ice holes and shit. But
yeah, here's the thing I always think about is I'm like, okay, so if there is like a vast land that you can explore and do it, why hasn't like National Geographic done like a whole documentary series on it? Why haven't we studied every inch of it? I mean, it's been 40 something years, 50 years since that treaty was signed.
You're telling me making a discussion of facts, you make a discussion of there is an unusual happening and agreement between everybody
which is weird.
Makes sense. So focusing on, yeah.
That's crazy, right? I don't know, dude. It's a little squirrely to me.
Have you seen the blue ice?
The blue ice?
Yeah, there's another thing. That one is the ice wall. There is the biblical myth about the ice wall that is connected to the Bible that was talking about blue crystals, apparently, of the Bible. And they found this blue ice, which disintegrates the moment you put it in air.
Yep. Yeah. I have seen that.
Apparently it's venomous and shit. I did not dig deeper into that. It was like, okay, here I'm going into bloody Transformers and Marvel kind of shit. Let's chill the fuck out. That's too much. That's too much for today.
Bro, have you seen the actual like flat Earth? What that looks like with Antarctica?
There's a whole bloody wall around. You have it's literally an island.
Yeah.
Which is the Earth that we know, and they put the whole ice wall around.
Yep.
But then it doesn't make even like ancient people, even like ancient philosophers figured out it's round.
Yeah.
With the shadows. They were
That's
literally right. I forgot who it was. I think it was a Greek philosopher. They had two turrets that were the same size at the distance, and then asked another guy, how long is the shadow at this time of the day?
Yeah.
And they figured that it is rounded because the shadows were different.
So this is, for people just
crazy.
watching on YouTube, this is what they think it looks like. This is what the flat earthers think. It's weird. So this is the ice
portal. There's a portal.
There's a portal. And then, there's like real pictures right here of like the ice wall, but really that's just a huge glacier. In my eyes, that's just a big glacier. That's not evidence of like if you go, for instance, if you go to the Grand Canyon, and if you're just in the middle of the Grand Canyon and you look around, you would think that the Earth is surrounded by the Grand Canyon, but it's not. It's just a massive dip in the Earth, but outside looking in, if we're not able to explore this, then yeah, sure, I guess it seems like that. But it's funny when you hear, did you look on TikTok that link I sent you of that guy that does all these ice wall videos or no?
No, yeah. I didn't have the time for doing that.
Yeah, it's a lot. But if you go to TikTok and you just search ice wall on TikTok, there's this dude, I forget his name. I wish I can give him a shout out. I might even try to have him on the podcast one day. But he does a bunch of these videos and he explains why when we see a photo of the Earth and it's round from the space station, he justifies that.
From the PlayStation.
It's fucking...
of his dreams. Fucking hilarious.
Fucking idiot.
Is he American?
Of course he is, yeah.
Of course he's American! Why? Why?
But I don't know, man. I mean, you look at things like this and you start doing the research and you dive into these weird conspiracy theories. It's not so far-fetched. Here's why. Because, back in the day, some of the smartest philosophers and the geniuses that we knew thought that when they looked up in the stars, it was actually gods. But turns out those are stars, and stars are millions and millions of light years away, and potentially those stars could be like our sun and have planets around. And now we know those aren't people in the sky, right? But philosophers back in the day thought there was, which is why, they're named Orion and all this mythology behind constellations and things like that. So they actually thought those were gods. So, and those were the smartest people in the world. Books were written about it, and they thought for sure that was true. And then it was disproven. So it makes you wonder, it's like, this is crazy. I can't believe this. But then 100 years later, is it going to end up being true? Who knows? Who's to tell? Things are constantly changing. So that's where I'm like...
For 1,000 years, no other discoveries were made because the church was blocking it. The question is, what is the next discovery that society is blocking that will disrupt and bring us to the next level?
Exactly.
Will it be the ice wall? I don't think it will be the ice wall.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't think it will be the ice wall. By the way, I have a question for you. Why are the Egyptians everywhere? Look at the map, the one that you have enlarged. Set and Anubis. What do the Egyptians have to do now with bloody flat earthers?
Dude,
they're everywhere.
Probably because, this has something to do with the pyramids. Who knows?
Of course, it has to do with the pyramids.
Yeah, it always does.
That's probably another American that we're going to discuss. You want to bet? 100%.
For sure. 100%. Yeah.
That was another big one. Ooh, that was another big rabbit hole.
Yeah. All right. But what were you going to say? Anything else on the ice wall?
No, that's all. But yeah, it's funny. Like Egypt is always somewhere.
Yeah, always.
Egyptian and Greeks, they're always somewhere.
All right, so for everyone just listening, I'll leave all the research and the links that we talked about today. I'll leave that in the description, and then also make sure you check out Amedeo on TikTok and Instagram. Amedeo, give them your handles and all that jazz, where they could find you, what you got going on, all that stuff.
Yashi Project on TikTok and Yashi on YouTube.
All right, cool, man. Well, hey, this was fun. You got anything else to add, bud?
That's all. Thank you for always having me. I love this. For me,
No,
it's always a nice experience.
yeah, me too, man. And we just got to get you down to Florida and we could do this shit in person. That's the key.
Hell yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
Ciao bambini.